There has been quite a build-up over the last few rounds. I try and stay out of the media talking about what we might do and what we could do and just wait until it happens. And over the last maybe 5 rounds, we've been making little steps. We're never going to really make like one massive big chunk and move forwards, but we focus on the small details and just get marginal gains and build confidence in the progression. And yeah, Alton Park was definitely another step of showing where we've been improving. And then this weekend's sort of been a little bit of a struggle. We haven't had it easy. The mixed conditions as well don't make it easy to find the right setup. This is the second time we've been to this circuit this year. We were here earlier in the year, so we have a bit of information from then. We obviously had some rain at the start of the weekend, so FP1 was kind of patchy, and I actually chose to ride on intermediate tyres. I waited probably half of the first session because it was kind of a bit dry in some spots and not very wet, but too wet to go on slick tyres. So most of the grid sort of went out on wets and then just circulated and kind of got used to the track. Where I sort of held out and waited and then went on the intermediate tyre and finished the session on those. And so that was quite a good session, but not really relevant to dry practice. Went out the next session, FP2 was dry, so that was good. We worked on some setup. I had a few problems. Engine brake control wasn't just right. It was sort of a bit inconsistent. What I'm trying to explain is what I was experiencing was if I just broke a little bit different each lap, the bike would react quite a lot different to what was such a small input in variation from my side. So we made some changes to the engine brake control to try and make the bike more consistent. So if I broke just that little bit later or a little bit earlier or was trying to make a pass, the bike would stay more consistent with a variation of change in each corner. I feel like the bike works really well when you're off brakes and off throttle. So that sort of like last piece into the turn, just before you've got onto the gas, and you're not really upright heavy braking. You're kind of just trail braking in, and the bike really floats nicely into the corner. It's probably why it makes a good bike at the Isle of Man TT, because a lot of the corners are flowy like that. But when we're just straight line upright braking, there's loads of different theories about why, but our bike seems to be not the strongest package, just upright, straight line braking. So when you're a rider, you feel like you're about to run up the back of the person in front. They seem to be able to slow down a lot quicker, and particularly close to the corner. So when we all sort of brake initially, everyone seems to be fairly similar. And then all of a sudden, it's like they're all starting to slow up as they get close to the corner, and you feel like you're going to go into the back of them. So when you've been riding the bike for a period of time, number of rounds, years even, you kind of know that character of the bike. So you end up riding with that anticipation of I'm going to brake a bit early because I don't want to run into the back of a group of people and be that guy that took everyone out. So yeah, there is some consideration you have to have when we're in a group as opposed to just riding on our own, and that's particularly because of the way our bike works, different to some of the others. But I'm sure if you spoke to the other riders in other groups, other teams, they'd have comments similar to ours, but maybe in a different area.
Where do you lose the most?
Where do you think it is?
But it's all about Kale, and it's
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to actually be here. We've had reasonable pace throughout practice, some mixed conditions obviously as well. So, but have been fairly up there, but not super strong like you normally need to be on the front row. And even more so, we went out in free practice 3 with used tyre to try and understand more about the bike on the used tyre for the race, and the bike didn't really perform very well, and I was a long way down the list, so it's kind of knocks your confidence a bit just before qualifying. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with a new tyre in the back for the qualifying. The bike performed really, really well, and yeah, I was happy to see my position at the end of qualifying. So sure, we'll take a little bit of time now to understand more about why the bike's performing particularly well. Maybe it was just a bad tyre for the final practice, but anyway, it was good in qualifying, so we can try and carry that into the race and see how we perform. Thank you. Going into qualifying, then I was not nervous, but a little bit concerned about the pace because we'd just come off of free practice 3, and I was a long way down the list, and the bike wasn't really performing very well. It was really working the tyre badly, and I can only think maybe the tyre wasn't working or something, because as soon as we put the fresh tyre in for qualifying, the bike felt like back to where it should, and everything was great again, and I was able to do a lap time that put me on the front row. So we've just, when you think, oh, maybe we've missed something, then you get surprised with a good result like we just had now. Everybody, that was entertaining, wasn't it? I was just watching the race from in the pit garage. This is the chat show part of today, where Pete and I just give you a bit of a rundown on how our weekend's been going in general, track conditions, that sort of stuff. We went out this morning in free practice 3 on used tyres, and I think the settings that we made changes with yesterday were quite a good improvement, perhaps. But riding on a used tyre, especially after it's done a heat cycle and then out this morning on what was quite a cold track, it just tore the tyre up and I had no grip, and I felt like maybe the bike was worse than what we've been riding on. But fortunately, once we put a new tyre in and went out for qualifying, the bike was back to where it should be and actually felt the best it's been all weekend. So the little changes we made from yesterday to today were the right ones to make, and the bike did feel really good in qualifying. So the free practice, final free practice, I'm going to put that down to just the used tyre and the cold track conditions. So we'll put that aside, and hopefully that doesn't rear its head again. So yeah, starting off the front row of the grid, obviously qualifying is 1 lap, not really relevant to what a full race package is going to display, but it's certainly a good place to start from, and I'll have to ride as good and hard as I can to maintain a front position. I anticipate, just through what we know about the tyres and the track, that there may be a sort of a drop towards the end of the race, and I just hope that I'm sort of in the fight for the race early on, and can sort of stay with the lead group. So if there is any sort of drop, I'm already in the group at the front, so we all kind of drop together. There's nothing worse than when you're in a race, sort of midway through a race, and you start to feel the rear tyre drop and you're losing some speed, and the riders up front are just sort of streaking away, and they haven't had the drop at the same time. So I'm hoping that our bike's consistent through the race and I can put a good package together. So for where we are now, from where we started the year, are we where we expected to be? So there's quite a few things have changed. My first year was last year. From last year to this year, we had a camshaft rule change in the championship regulations. So fortunately, the BMW's already got quite a high spec of power. They're known for being a powerful engine. So when this rule change came, it didn't damage our performance as badly as we thought it might. We had to run the standard road bike camshaft, where normally we would use a racing cam, and that boosts our power up a bit. Fortunately, the suffering we have with the loss of power isn't really that obvious on the track, which is a good thing. But we still lost some power. And then also this year we have a harder tyre. I do sympathise with them. Motorbikes are exceptionally expensive to run, but so this concept was a harder tyre, we'll use less of them and it'll be less expensive. But unfortunately, when you've got lots of power, the only thing that drives you forward is that grip coming from the bike into the tyre and pushing you forward. And it's kind of a double-edged sword for us. We've kind of maybe got a more aggressive power in some ways, and now less grip to match it. So we've really suffered, the BMW particularly as a bike has suffered in the championship this year. So we were already on a package last year that wasn't winning so much, and then now we've got a harder tyre and a different power character. So I feel like this year we've suffered a little bit for things out of our control. And then during the year, I feel like we have actually improved, and even more visibly from my side, I've actually been in the lead group a few times in recent races. So we are actually making progress. But in this sport where every single team and every rider, and every mechanic, they're all at a very high level, you're never going to really improve in a big chunk and go, oh, wow, look how much I've made this bike better, or I've improved myself and gone from a top 10 finish to on the podium. It's always going to be little fine-tuning adjustments and finding a little bit here and there and marginal gains. So it's never really been something we can predict where we would be, and have we achieved what we should have achieved. It's one of the, I don't know. All you can do is turn up every week, put your best forward, use your best knowledge, and hope that you get some luck along the way. I'll get started and Pete will come when he's ready. I went out in qualifying with a new tyre, and I qualified on the front row in 3rd position. So that was actually really positive. I felt really good on the bike. For one lap with a grip in the bike, it worked really well. And then in the opening race, got a really good start, sort of held my position for a while, and then just over time as we went through the laps, as the tyre starts to wear, obviously you get a little bit less performance. And with that less performance, I started to drop a position and another and end up quite a way down the list. So a little bit disappointing, but I think I was expecting a hard race because I knew the qualifying lap time that put me on the front row was a one lap sort of wonder moment. It wasn't really a good example of the quality of the bike over race distance. So I tried it as hard as I could, but that was the best I could do. We tried something again this morning in warm-up, but it's hard to evaluate the bike because obviously very cold conditions, and again riding on a used tyre because of our limitations on how many we can use. So very hard to evaluate the bike. Went out in the sprint race that we had earlier today, this time starting from row 3 because of the lap times from yesterday's race. So obviously a lot harder starting further down the grid. Tried to push early on in the race when I knew the tyre would be at its best. But so was everybody else. Everyone knows it's a sprint race. We don't have to do the 20 laps like yesterday. We only had to do 12. So no one was really thinking about conserving the tyre or doing anything strategy like that. It was just go as hard as you can. And unfortunately, I kind of got beat up because, our bike's quite fast. We do brake quite late. It's very difficult to make an overtake when everybody's doing the same thing. You've got to kind of extend yourself if you want to try and overtake. So often the passes that were made on me wasn't just like a nice smooth slip by. It was last minute desperation trying to make a pass, and 2 riders end up running wide and 3 get up the inside of you at that same point. So it's a bit disappointing, but that's the way it goes. We've made some more changes, slight changes to the bike. Just went up 1 rate harder on the rear shock spring because the average was a bit deep during the race we had earlier. So we'll see if that, just slight change can improve our balance and maybe make our race a little more consistent. This is the longer race again, so there should be a little bit of strategy, not much, but there should be a little bit of strategy with the other riders as well, that they don't want to destroy their grip early in the race because, we've got 20 laps to do.
Soon Ryan Vickers would make his move as well, but there was drama further back.
Really disappointed. The final race is, where we get most of our energy from to reflect on at the closer of the weekend. And really, really difficult race. We tried a lot of stuff during the weekend and even right to that last race, and nothing seems to have helped. The worst part was ran out of brakes in the last race. I couldn't even race with the people in the group I was in. It's bad enough that we're down the list, but not being able to fight even for your position because you're struggling with a component failure. I feel like we're already riding with a hand tied behind our back, and that's just the nail in the coffin for it. It's we did a great job in qualifying to be on the front row for race 1, and then every race since has just been a step back, and for all the trying, nothing has proven beneficial. So I'm sort of sat here now really disappointed with the weekend. I had far better hopes and higher expectations than what we're coming away with. So yeah, a bit lost for words.